It has been more than 3 years since her husband was murdered. But Patty Ortega says the pain has not eased. The father of 5 was shot dead in broad daylight. Jerry Ortega was a high-profile environmental activist who exposed corruption in the province of Palawan in western Philippines. Some of his reports implicated government officials.
I'm a mother of 5 children. I'm left with 5 children to feed. And if, like me, I have to be practical. If I become noisy and I get killed also, then what happens to the 5 children? But I still believe that we have to be more vigilant, especially for those who can afford to, even if for those who cannot.
Governor Joel Reyes and his brother, a town mayor, were implicated when the killers confessed they had ordered Ortega's murder. They are now on the country's most wanted list. This is what Dr. Jerry Ortega fought for, the preservation of the environment in Palawan. Here, activists continue to fight against illegal logging and large-scale mining. It's divided both local officials and residents in a province where 80% of the people live in poverty. An environmental group called Global Witness released a report saying that the Philippines is one of the most dangerous places in the world for environmentalists. 67 people have been killed since 2002. Investigations show that a striking number are alleged to have been killed by state agents. The protection of the environment has never been more dangerous. President Benigno Aquino has promised to end the killings. But for many here, the culture of impunity is just too hard to break.
On the national level, you have that message. But on the local level, you still have local officials working, some, not all. Some local officials are part of the problem. They work with the criminals. They're part of, the hoodlums committing environmental crimes.
Patty Ortega says she has come to accept that it may take some time before justice is served. Until then, she hopes the people of Palawan will at least remember what it is that her husband died for. Jamela Alindogan, Al Jazeera, Palawan, Western Philippines.
Wow, nakatali.
Typhoon Vamco has caused extensive damage in the Philippines, flooding many parts of Luzon, the largest and most populated island. The storm, known locally as Ulysses, made landfall in the ABIGAIL region. The same area was battered by the super typhoon Goni just a week ago. Howard Johnson reports from Manila.
Typhoon Vamco is the 21st cyclone to hit the Philippines this year and the most deadly. It made landfall on Wednesday, but we're only beginning to see the full extent of its devastation. It comes 2 weeks after Typhoon Goni hit the Philippines, hitting the Bicol region. But what we're seeing at the moment is the province of Cagayan being hit particularly badly. The Magat Dam there has been opened up to simply let out all of the water that's been collected in the water basin there. It's been overwhelmed by a lot of water. A lot of rain has been dumped on the Philippines, on the main island of Luzon, which is the most populous island.
At paluluhurin ko yan sa harap ninyo. Really. Pakinggan ko sa kanya kung ano, bakit nagkaganon. At kung makita ko may kasalanan, putang ina mo, asahan mo talaga. Sasampalin ko yan sa harap mo.
But Malacanang is blaming businessmen for the rampant bribery and corruption.
Kaya nagkakaroon ng corruption because you're cooperating with the corrupt people.
Malacanang urges businesses to come forward and make their voices heard.
Do not complain of corruption when you yourselves are involved. Pag hindi kayo pumayag, walang bribery. Kung pumayag naman kayo at nagsumbong kayo, di wala. You can prosecute them. Ang problema, tumatahimik kayo eh.
Despite the study's findings, Malacanang is not convinced that the confidence of the business community and the administration is affected. Meantime, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, says with its power, it can recommend suspension or dismissal of government personnel and officials involved in bribery and corruption. ARTA says it's currently investigating several people and agencies, including the previously identified top corrupt offices, the Public Works and Highways, Customs, Internal Revenue, National Electrification Administration, and Tourism.
Every morning, Rodoy's son checks his fish pen. He's been a fisherman almost all of his life and has recently moved to Manila. Fishing has always been difficult in the provinces, but he says it's far more challenging in the capital.
Mga water lily.
The current is not so strong today. My fish pen has no garbage. Unlike when the waters are high, garbage is everywhere.
The stench is overwhelming. Hundreds of Filipino fishermen depend on Manila Bay for their livelihood. They admit it is not an ideal place for fishing. Manila Bay is one of the most polluted areas in Manila, but they are left with no choice. Greenpeace says cleanup activities in Manila Bay show that disposable plastics used just once are one of the leading causes of pollution. It says the situation is similar all across the country, with giant companies and their customers polluting oceans with their plastic waste. In the Philippines, where the majority of people live below the poverty line, families are pushed to buy cheap goods in small quantities. The so-called sachet economy responds to the needs of Filipino consumers. But it has also made the country the third biggest polluter of oceans based on a Greenpeace study. China and Indonesia rank first and second.
We don't have enough an infrastructure to manage our waste. We have a good law, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, but we feel that it's not implemented properly in all levels of the government.
The government admits a national policy must be in place.
We want that to be banned, totally banned, the single-use plastic. All other packaging materials of similar characteristics, we want that to be banned.
Sunsets over Manila Bay are spectacular, but the Philippine capital is gaining an unwanted reputation for its wasted potential.